Congratulations, you finished cramming and this is now the day that you're going to take the exam. How do we best maximize our efforts in order to get the best possible grade when it comes to law schools and law exams? This is what I'm going to attempt to answer today and hopefully share with you guys some of the tips and techniques I know. These things I wish I knew way back when I was a law student because I think that they would have made my life a whole lot easier and I would have a lot higher grades. But the past is past, so what I can do now instead is I can share all these tips and techniques to not only my students but also to all the law students out there and even to the future law students so that when it's their time to answer exams, they're not going to have a difficult time of it as I did. My name is Chad Osorio. I'm a lawyer, teacher, and psychology professional, and these are my Chad Vice. But before we continue, don't forget to check out Tikbalang in the Big City and other stories at Treasure Cloud on Shopee. Now that's out of the bag, I want to focus on giving tips and techniques in order to ace law exams. I utilized principles in applied psychology, and actually these are tips I've personally used for the bar exams. These are things I wish I knew when I was a law student, but that's already done. So I'm just going to share all of these with you. These tips and techniques I call Chadvice because I'm Chad, and these are my advice. I'm going to give you 5 Chadvice today, which could potentially help boost your exam scores and give partial points. Chadvice number 1. Read all the questions first. There's a group activity where students are given a paper with instructions. The instructions are, read the contents first before doing anything. Because people don't know how to follow instructions and are very excited to do the activity, they end up doing so many things. But for the person who read all the instructions before doing anything, the main task is actually just write your name on the sheet or something like that. In any case, this has been very helpful for me. What I do is I read all the questions first before answering the exam. That way, my unconscious mind can process all the other questions while working on the current one. Everything is parked in the back of my mind, and I can make connections more easily when it's my turn to answer. So I'd read the exam questions, and then I would take a short nap during the exam, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. During the bar exams, I slept a lot, at least 20 to 30 minutes per bar subject. And then I'd wake up and use the restroom, do push-ups to get my blood flowing to the brain, and I'd start answering. After that, I know my unconscious mind is processing all the information, applying everything I learned so that when I'm ready to write, they're all there. Chadvice number 2. Have a wristwatch. Compute the time for each question. So, say given 2 hours and 10 questions. That gives us roughly 12 minutes per question. If we take out, say, 20 minutes for reading the questions and the nap, that's 10 minutes per question. That means we shouldn't spend more than 10 minutes answering a question. And because we've already been processing the question in our brains prior, it's going to be a lot easier to answer them once we start writing. Chadvice number 3. Answer directly. If I knew this before, I probably would have done tons better in my exams. As you may notice, I can be very verbose, which is not a bad thing when it comes to being an advocate, but it can be detrimental as a law student. Law professors and bar examiners don't have the time and energy to devote to grading our treatises and philosophical ramblings. We can actually be technically correct with our answers, but still a low grade precisely because of that. So, as much as possible, answer directly. And if the question asks for a yes or no, answer yes or no or it depends. If a question asks for specific answers, then give the specific answers. So do not wait to say a lot of things. Do not write an opening statement and a closing statement. Just answer the question directly before expounding. Chadvice number 4. Use the CREAC format. If I knew this, I probably would have done tons better in my exams. What I found useful during my studying the bar exam is to use the CREAC. CREAC means conclusion, rule, explanation, application, and again conclusion. It's very similar to the IRAC, the issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. So basically, answer the question first. Like what I said a while ago, if it's a polar question, then answer yes, no, or it depends. That's the conclusion. And then we follow it with the rule. what law backs up our statement? We have to explain the rule, that's the explanation, and then apply it to the current situation. So that's the application. So for example, so we have a question, we have a situation, and then the question goes like, what does the petitioner have standing? So what you could answer is, yes, the petitioners have standing. And then we give the rule. According to rule something, or according to this particular law, blah, 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 then state the rule. And then afterwards, explain it. Afterwards, we have to use the application. In this case, the petitioners have standing because 1, because 2, because 3. So all of these applications, whether the elements fit the rule. And then lastly, again, repeat the conclusion in your own terms. Therefore, it is clear that the petitioners have standing. The benefit of using the CREAC method is that it saves time in grading exams. Even if you're wrong, but if you write down the correct legal basis, it's easier for the checker to see this. Last but not the least, Chadvice number 5. Don't forget to use keywords. Well, what are keywords? Keywords are the words commonly associated with specific concepts in law. So for example, when we talk about the lifeblood doctrine, we already know that we're talking about taxation. Or for example, when we're talking about the special contract of permanent union, I don't have to continue that for you to be able to know when it comes to marriage. So it's very important. It's very important that every once in a while we cite keywords so that the professor knows that we know what we're talking about. Pro tip, use Latin keywords. It's going to be a lot cooler if we use words like nebis in idem or, like Harry Potter spells in order to impress the professor and know that we actually studied not only the keywords, not only the meanings, but also all of these things which go above and beyond what it takes to study the class. That's basically a lot of my advice for taking the exams, especially essay exams. So just a very brief review. Number 1, don't forget to read all the questions before answering anything. Number 2, have a wristwatch so you can monitor the time you spend in answering every question. Number 3, of course, answer directly. Answer it yes, no, or it depends. And then also identify if it asks you to identify. Number 4, use the CREAC method. The CREAC method is basically conclusion, rule, explanation, application, and then conclusion. It basically gives you a lot of partial points in case you forget something, or even if you're wrong, at least if you have the correct legal basis, then it's going to be useful for the professors to be able to grade your work properly. And then last but not least is number 5. Chadvice number 5 is use keywords, and if you use Latin keywords, all the better. There you go. So basically, that's all for me tonight. I hope you learned something, and I hope to do a better video next time. So again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know where. Like and subscribe. And also, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or write down a comment below or email me at thechadvice.co. And I hope to see you guys next time. Good luck with your exams!